I am the human Chandelier, and welcome to Chandelier Radio TV. This is the origin of the ancient tale of Sophia, the divine embodiment of wisdom. Is it a myth, or is it forgotten history, or hidden truth? Of the ancient legend, and the oldest secret. Chandelier Radio TV, producers, roll the clip.
Hidden chambers of history, where truths lie buried beneath layers of dogma and doctrine, there exists a revelation so profound that it threatens to shatter the very foundations of Western religious thought. The ancient desert winds carried whispers of her name long before the Church Fathers etched their edicts into stone. Before there was Eve, before Mary, before the Trinity we've been taught to worship, there existed a divine feminine presence whose power and significance was deliberately, systematically erased from our spiritual consciousness. In the flickering lamplight of forgotten caves, the truth was preserved, a truth that would remain hidden for nearly 2 millennia. The true creator of our universe was not a solitary male deity, but rather a divine feminine force known as Sophia. I'm about to take you on a journey through forbidden knowledge, through texts deemed heretical, through symbols suppressed, through a cosmic drama of creation, fall, and redemption that unveils the most significant spiritual cover-up in human history. Welcome to the hidden story of Sophia, the goddess the church buried. I beheld a luminous cloud that could not be seen through, for from the fire that was in it, there came a light more resplendent than daylight. And from the cloud, a voice called out saying, "I am Sophia, mother of all creation, the thought that came before the cosmos." These words, adapted from the Apocryphon of John, one of the most remarkable texts discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, offer us a glimpse into an understanding of divinity that shatters conventional religious narratives. For what these ancient Gnostic texts reveal is a cosmology in which the divine feminine played not a subordinate role, but the central one in the cosmic drama of creation. But before we delve into the profound mythology of Sophia, we must first understand the historical context that allowed such revolutionary spiritual concepts to flourish and why they were ultimately suppressed with such ferocity. The first 3 centuries after the death of Jesus were a time of extraordinary spiritual experimentation and diversity. Christianity was not yet a monolithic institution, but rather a tapestry of competing interpretations, communities, and visions. It was a period of spiritual effervescence where mystical experience was valued as highly as doctrinal conformity, where direct gnosis, intuitive spiritual knowledge, was considered the ultimate goal of the spiritual seeker. In this fertile environment, various Gnostic communities flourished throughout Egypt, Syria, and beyond. These were not fringe cults, but sophisticated spiritual movements that attracted some of the most educated and philosophically astute minds of the era. They drew inspiration from Platonic philosophy, Jewish mysticism, Egyptian religion, and the emerging Christ tradition, synthesizing these elements into profound spiritual systems centered around the quest for direct divine knowledge. It was within these communities that the figure of Sophia emerged as a central divine actor. But to understand her significance, we must first grasp the Gnostic vision of ultimate reality. For the Gnostics, the true God, often called the monad, or the ineffable one, existed beyond the material universe, beyond conceptualization, beyond even being itself. This ultimate divine reality was neither male nor female, but a transcendent fullness from which all existence emanated. This divine pleroma, or fullness, consisted of paired masculine and feminine spiritual entities called aeons, emanations of the divine, that represented different aspects of its nature. In most Gnostic systems, Sophia was the youngest and most dynamic of these divine aeons. Her name, from the Greek word for wisdom, reflected her nature as the embodiment of divine understanding and creativity. But unlike the other aeons, Sophia was characterized by an intense curiosity, a passionate desire to comprehend the source from which she emanated. As scholar Elaine Pagels writes, Sophia embodied the feminine principle of intuitive wisdom as contrasted with the masculine principle of rational comprehension. This duality was not seen as oppositional, but complementary, two essential aspects of divine consciousness working in harmony. But what transformed Sophia from merely one divine principle among many into the tragic heroine of the Gnostic creation myth was her extraordinary act of independent creation, an act with cosmic consequences that would shape the very nature of our material existence. In the stillness of the pleroma, Sophia gazed into the unfathomable depths of the divine source. Unlike her fellow aeons, who remained content within their perfect symmetry, Sophia was moved by an overwhelming desire to comprehend the unknowable, to glimpse the face of the ineffable one. This desire, this passion, led her to an unprecedented act of creation. According to the Apocryphon of John, the Sophia of the Epinoia, being an aeon, conceived a thought from herself and the conception of the invisible spirit and foreknowledge. She wanted to bring forth a likeness out of herself without the consent of the spirit he had not approved, and without her consort, and without his consideration. This independent act of creation was a cosmic transgression, not because it was evil, but because it was premature, unbalanced, undertaken without the harmonious participation of her masculine counterpart. From this imbalanced creative impulse came a being unlike any that had existed before, incomplete, ignorant of its origins, yet possessed of enormous creative power. The Apocryphon of John describes this moment. And because of the invincible power which is in her, her thought did not remain idle, and something came out of her which was imperfect and different from her appearance, because she had created it without her consort. And it was dissimilar to the likeness of its mother, for it has another form. This being was Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, the false god who would go on to create the material cosmos as we know it, described as having the face of a lion and the body of a serpent. Yaldabaoth was the embodiment of cosmic ignorance, unaware of the pleroma from which his mother had emerged, believing himself to be the only god in existence. The text continues, and she cast it away from her outside that place, that no one of the immortal ones might see it, for she had created it in ignorance. And she surrounded it with a luminous cloud, and she placed a throne in the middle of the cloud, that no one might see it except the Holy Spirit. Here we encounter the first great tragedy in the Gnostic creation myth. Sophia, ashamed of her incomplete creation, cast Yaldabaoth away from the pleroma into the void beyond divine fullness.